Hi guys, today I'm going to be discussing Walt Whitman's iconic poem, City of Orgies. And even right off the bat, you see that this word is so prominent. And so I'm excited to bring it up to you guys or talk about it. I wanted to argue that in City of Orgies, Whitman uses the overwhelming urban landscape of the city to underscore the deeply rooted physical and emotional connection that persists among the spectacle of urban life. The poem illuminates the convergence of countless cultures and backgrounds in Manhattan, and how the city and its people come together to promote his democratic ideals. The personification of the city into its own living entity allows Whitman to reveal the potential of fostering meaningful relationships that promote love, friendship, and integration. City of Orgies is a prime thematic example of Whitman's Calamus cluster and its encouragement of true democracy. And so here's the original manuscript. It was written in late 1850s. And some of the things I wanted to point out is that the original title will be changed. There's an emphasis on negation. There's an added line about Manhattan in the published version. The word continual is added towards the bottom at number 4. And it refers to the city as you, which therefore humanizes it. Alrighty. So this original title change, it goes from City of My Walks and Joys and Calamus 18 to City of Orgies. While this was originally written in the late 1850s, the present title was given in 1867. And this original title kind of emphasizes Whitman's personal connection, especially due to it saying my walks and joys. Taking out the my kind of creates a more universal experience that the reader can feel themselves in. And City of Orgies kind of radically changes the tone of the not or of the poem. I mean, we don't see the word orgies in the original manuscript, and then once it is published, it's not only the title, but he adds City of Orgies, Walks and Joys. And it kind of adds this collective experience to the poem's theme and the stronger connection to the Calamus poems, which celebrate friendship and manly attachment. And it kind of brings in a more diverse experience, in my opinion, to the city life because it's breaking these conventional boundaries that are more pure-hearted. The word is definitely a little bit provocative in a more modern setting, but for Whitman to kind of tie it into um, his poem in a more universal experience, it kind of um, embraces inclusivity and echoes Whitman's democratic ideals. And I kind of wanted to go a little bit into the Calamus cluster as a whole in the 1860s. Whitman was writing poems at a very furious pace at this point, and he was trying to create the New American Bible. And it was organized numerically, as we see on the left. These are a few poems, manuscripts, and the first one is The Paths Untrodden, the first poem in the Calamus cluster. And so it says Calamus 1, and then below, and it's the one I heard at the close of the day, which was written in the late 1850s. It's the sixth poem. And so he's kind of trying to make them more organized and a new covenant that would convert America into true democracy. And so the poem we're discussing, City of Orgies, was Calamus 18. And while these poems were originally accepted as innocent, by the 20th century, they were believed to depict unnatural sexuality. And these poems, as I mentioned before, were about comradeship and adhesiveness. Um, and they kind of have this more emotional tone to them that highlight his personal connection he has to them, which also allows the reader to have a personal connection. And his 1860s poems were very much inspired by his time in Boston because it exposed him to greater racial equality and social dynamics. His vision of the city was far more diverse, which is a major theme of our poem, and it almost created this transforming experience for Whitman. And I wanted to tie in, this is a photo from 1860, a letter he wrote to Abby Price about his time in Boston, where he writes, "I am more pleased with Boston than I anticipated. It's full of life and crisscross streets. I'm very glad I have come, if only to rub out of me the deficient notions I had of New England character. I'm getting to like it every way, even the Yankee twang." And then fast forward to the end. "I create an immense sensation in Washington Street. Everybody here is so like everybody else. And I am Walt Whitman. Yankee curiosity and cuteness, for once, is thoroughly stumped, confounded, petrified, made desperate." And so I feel like this letter kind of is significant in regards to his inspiration for Calamus because he's tying in his own personal experience to being a Yankee or a New Yorker and how Boston is kind of shaping it for him to feel a more personal connection to that aspect of his life. Another point in the poem that I thought was significant was the negation parallels. His use of not and nor kind of emphasized a sense of dissatisfaction in his experiences. And there's these limitations of urban life, and things such as wealth or entertainment carry no importance when compared to human connection. For example, not the processions in the street, nor the bright windows with goods in them. It's kind of this materialistic standpoint, which creates this paradox that allows the poem's ending to come off very hopeful, where he says, your frequent and swift flash of eyes offering me love, because we kind of get this buildup almost of a catalog of these things that aren't good with the city, only for him to kind of highlight what fails to satisfy versus what truly matters, which is that continual intimate moments that unite individuals of different backgrounds. And you kind of get this yearning to embed yourself throughout the poem and kind of take appreciation to what it is important in the city, which is love. Another point I thought was very interesting is that Manhattan was never mentioned in the original handwritten manuscript. It was in the transcription on the archive, they say Manhattan was cut away, but that's up for our interpretation because it's never explicitly on the document given. And the published poem includes the line, "But as I pass, oh Manhattan," towards the end of the poem, as highlighted in the bottom picture. And adding this line kind of transformed the setting into a lived reality. Instead of just wondering what city he's describing, we now have concrete evidence that it's Manhattan. And the negative things he was referring to previously and the love he feels in the end are tied to this city. He was known for spending his adult life writing about Manhattan as he strives to reduce his experiences of things to unbiased perception and reach a point of view unaffected by political and social distinctions. He's using it as a symbol of urban experience and existence, which reinforces that theme of diversity in a symbolically rich setting. However, I will say I thought that since the original manuscript claims that Manhattan was there but cut away, we kind of have to trust it instead of actually having concrete evidence. So it's more of an editorial interpretation. More on Manhattan that I found interesting regarding Whitman is, I mean, we are aware Whitman was born in New York and lived there for 4+ decades of his life. His poetry came from simply observing and experiencing the world around him. And we see this emphasis in the city constantly in poems like Manhattan and Crossing the Brooklyn Ferry and now City of Orgies. And it kind of ties back to this fact that I found that he was he took very extensive notes on New York. He even created a scrapbook. And on the right side, this photo is 2 pages from his copy of The World as It Is and As It Has Been. And he would take these notes on the geographical facts and ideas of the city and put them in a scrapbook so he can come back to them. And it was this intensive, extensive self-education. And it kind of, City of Orgies kind of connects to this overall love he has for the city. And there's this thematic connection to other poems in Leaves of Grass. And below on the left, I found some notes and annotations that later were used in a poem, Manhattan. And I think they just really tie in this idea that he had this love and passion for the city that the reader is allowed to interpret themselves. He adds the word continual to his last line when it says, "Lovers, continual lovers, only repay me." And we see on the bottom right picture, there's a little arrow where it's added, and it kind of transformed the static meaning of the poem into like an ongoing one because it's continual. It's not like a concrete end. And it kind of emphasizes this yearning for connection to a person, to the city. And the acts of loves do not ultimately become singular, but persistent. And this revision or addition, if we want to say that, brings in the idea that love and connection are recurring and cyclical. His poem celebrates another tradition of multiple partners and desires, which kind of ties into that idea of orgies and the almost excessive physical and emotional idea they bring into our head. And It's a strong connection to the overall theme of the Calamus poems, which earlier mentioned was that friendship and adhesiveness, which frames the city as a place where diversity is welcome and it's central to the urban and democratic experience. This one word kind of makes the aspects of love feel more accessible, and the individuals have a stronger ability to form physical and emotional connections to the city. It's very optimistic, and it ties into that negation kind of building up for a positive ending. The last thing I thought was very important is that he humanizes the city. He uses the word you and your to describe Manhattan, which is a powerful act of personification, which kind of blurs that line between the environment and its inhabitants. Um, Not only is it reciprocal, but it feels very deeply personal, like you're having a relationship with the city. And it kind of makes you wonder if the orgies are about people or it's about the city and the people connecting. And it's written in detailing the city, Whitman tends to adopt an attitude of pure observation, of an innocent vision, taking in indiscriminately all that it sees. So these innocent observations kind of allow us to move past the surface level ideas that one may read upon first inspection and see, do an active search for shared experiences. It's a very intimate connection that we feel, especially when we consider the word orgies and the kind of provocative message that can be portrayed through it. It feels like you're having a relationship with this city, which underscores how the physical and emotional connections thrive in urban environments. City of Orgies reimagines the significance of urban life and the importance of diversity. In a time of American history polarized by the Civil War and animosity, Whitman is almost using democracy and its ideals to experiment with what differences across cultures can bring to society. In a way, the poem promotes inclusivity that fosters empathy, allowing the reader to reimagine their potentially rethink their perceived notions and what the city does for them. It breaks the mold not just as a poem about love, but about changing the ways one lives their urban life and to engage in a more celebratory fashion. And I just had some questions really quick. Critic Robert Martin sees it as a celebration of democratic sensual awareness that seeks lovers, continual lovers. Do you agree with this argument? Or do you see this as almost too idealistic? How does this interpretation complicate the overarching theme of democratic unity? And my other question, do you think changing the title to City of Orgies was a direct attempt to sexualize its tone, therefore follow the theme of Calamus? Or do you think the argument should more closely emphasize a theme of intensity and physical emotional connections in its urban setting? And this photo, as compared to the real one, this is the painting that was in the 1860 Leaves of Grass. Thank you guys. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. And here's my works cited. Thank you.